Hello and welcome to Breakfast Central on News Central here today. We are back and ready to take a look at some of the biggest stories that's making the headlines on News Central and definitely on every other media space. Not forgetting to stories that you can use and stories that tell a lot that will affect your decision making and most importantly that will help you understand better what is really happening in Nigeria and beyond. My name is Joe Hansen.
And my name is Olive Emodi, welcoming you this Wednesday morning to Breakfast Central. Thank you very much for joining us and starting your day with us. As usual, we're streaming live on YouTube. If you'd like to share thoughts, we want to hear them. We want to read these thoughts. I'll be heading to YouTube and taking your comments in the chat box. Benga is away for a bit, but not to worry. He's connected virtually and definitely watching the show at the moment. But we want you definitely to be a part of the show. Welcome and thank you very much for joining us.
That's right. A lot has happened, as usual. That's why we have what is called wake-up conversations, to wake up to the stories that you may have missed while you were snoozing. But then again, they say if you snooze, you lose. But in this case, if you snooze, don't worry, you're not losing anything. Because when you wake up in the morning, you get to find us here, bringing to you the updates of every single story and what went down. But yesterday, Edo State governor celebrating 1 year in office. It was drama-filled. It was filled with celebration, pomp and pageantry, like some would like to call it. And Akpako, as they shout.
Akpako governor.
Akpako governor. Governor, and so on. 1 year in office, achievement is what people are looking at. But one thing that stand out of the celebrations, it had to do with a speech that was made by a very, I'd say, a member of the governor's cabinet. He's also one who has come under fire a lot of times for making some statements in which many have termed to be very reckless. Nevertheless, on this particular day, as the governor of Edo State was celebrating 1 year in office and reading out some of his achievements, looking into what will be done. On the other side, the story that made the headlines is a video you can see on your screen right now. It's got to do with an APC a member, especially in Edo State.
Let's listen to the video and hear what the APC chair has to say.
Edo State is a state that has already settled everything for our president. I want to let the city boys know that our loyalty to our governor is of no break, no gear, no sense. The explanation is this: anything the governor tells us to do, we cannot argue, because he has all the special advisors, all the special assistants that will tell him, we as a party, we have no sense when we're with him. No break, meaning that if he has carefully decided to send us on errand, we have no break anymore. No gear. If you have ever seen a vehicle, most especially a truck, that has no gear and is descending, you know how deadly such a vehicle is. That's what we are as a party in this state. Because we have no sense, the governor has already told us that 3.5 million votes for President Bola Tinubu must be guaranteed. And it's already settled.
All right, so there you have that video.
Are you surprised? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised because this is the same Edo State where Governor Monday Okwewulu said to them that if they don't wear the infinity cap, the ESCO, that if they don't wear the infinity cap, you know, they shouldn't come into the ESCO premises, into the secretariat. Then the Charity Tenebe went a step further to say that those who don't wear the infinity cap will be suspended. And now we've progressed even further to admit that the members of the party have no sense and they're zombies when it comes to the governor. Again, I would say that loyalty is an ingredient that is necessary for politics. But loyalty also has to be done with some measure of decorum, especially when you know that Nigeria is insensitive. We're very sensitive with how we view our politicians. Nigerians take them with a pinch of salt, everything they say and do with a pinch of salt. So maybe, I don't know who advises them, to be careful of the kind of things they say in public. I know he will say that he was speaking to party faithful and he's not talking to the citizens of the state. But this is the problem that we have, because what he said, whilst he may be able to justify it, that represents how a number of politicians in Nigeria behave, how a number of political parties behave, where we're tethered to the center, to the leadership, and they're surrounded by yes men, people who are unable to tell them the truth when it's necessary for them to call them out on bad behavior. That is the concern.
Let's not forget that this same person in question, Mr. Jarrett.
That's one that I just mentioned now, that said if they don't come with a Jagaban cap, they'll be suspended.
Yes, and he's known to make very, very, I'm trying to look for the right word. He's known to make very, let me use the word, unfortunate statements. Statements that shouldn't be made by one who presumes or calls himself a leader. Take, for instance, he also had made a statement at some point that he hates Peter Obi. And he did not hold back. And while he was asked, he said, yes, that he hates him. He used the word hate. And here he is again. He also has a clear statement here saying that, that they're zombies. In other words, that they have no break, and so on and so forth. Where I have a challenge is the statement of, we have guaranteed Mr. President over 3-point-something million votes.
How?
I think we have to be careful with this sentiment we're bandying or that's being shared around, especially by politicians. Because when you say you guarantee, the Constitution does not allow an individual or a party, and I stand to be corrected, even by whoever, does not allow for a politician to say, I guarantee you XYZ number of votes.
Well, there have been
especially in a country where vote buying is a major challenge. And I think INEC should step up right now. This is where Josh Amupita should come forth and possibly put a press release out there, putting these politicians on their seat and letting them know that, listen, going forward, nobody should be able to make such statements in public, telling whoever it is, whether it's Mr. President, that I guarantee you 3.5 million votes. One would say it's just an exercise in fruition, you're just assuring the president, or one would say you're just saying it's futility, you're just talking about it rather. But then again, like we say, in a country that is struggling with vote buy, let's be very careful when they come out in public and say, I guarantee you. Guarantee can also mean that you are, in other words,
you're going to do whatever it takes.
Doing whatever it takes to ensure that you provide those numbers.
Especially because we have been bedeviled with challenges like vote buying, voter intimidation, and against the bedrock of these challenges, you coming out to boldly state that we're guaranteeing you how many million votes might infer that there's a possibility of manipulation that can happen somewhere. Again, we have recognized that some of these statements are made to party faithfuls, but politicians must be very careful the things that they say, especially when you're the party in power, you have nothing to prove. You don't need the validation of Nigerians. You have nothing to prove. So we must be very, very, very careful. But then again, this also reflects our culture, our Nigerian culture, the culture of, again, sucking up to those at the top.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and we see it in homes where you say you can't speak to an older person, you can speak back. These are cultures that are being challenged now, where younger people can say, no, I don't agree with that, sir. Or I don't agree with that, ma. You can question and ask a question. We can't carry that mentality. And if that generation thinks that the kind of politics that they run, where it's like the word of the governor is final, it's law. He says that the governor has advisors so that the rest of them have no say, meaning that they will leave it for the advisors. But that's not entirely correct. Yes, he has advisors. But even the president, with all his advisors, has made a number of mistakes that Nigerians have pushed back on. When the clemency, the presidential pardon situation happened, did the president not have advisors? Was it not considered an error in the way the manner it was handled? Nigerians kicked back, they listened, and they went back, reviewed it, took into consideration all the complaints that Nigerians had made, and reflected it in the second list that was put forward. So It's not enough to say, oh, he has advisors. We're not going to, all of us are going to be zombies. We have no sense when it comes to the governor. Whatever he says is law. I beg now. I beg now.
And let's also just to add, I think Mr. Jared Anambra is actually trying as much as possible to secure his spot. Just 2 weeks ago, we also heard that there's a scuffle, even within the APC, that he shouldn't come back as chairman. Just 2 weeks ago. And there are also plans we hear, to equally tout the chairmanship elections. So his job, as it were, according to some stakeholders in the APC, his job is on the line. So you would also wonder why someone will come out and make, such statements as well. But then again, we have to be very careful, and that's what we're highlighting here. We don't want to push a narrative that, in other words, will presume that no matter what happens come 2027, we have to secure a certain number of votes, and if we do not get it, we have to go by all means necessary or possible to ensure that we get that. But let's see what Nigerians are saying in reaction to this particular footage that we just brought to you. Upgrade PR number 1 says, I thought they said Edo ain't Lagos.
No, let's say the way they typically say Edo no be Lagos.
Edo no be Lagos. What on earth is going on in Edo? 3.5 million voters. What is 2.6 million registered voters in the state? Now, this is what we're talking about. Let's go on to another tweet quickly. The Testament podcast. Not we are. You should personalize it because achieving 3.5 million votes in a state that has less than 2.5 million registered votes and less than 2 million active voters. Is this structure of confidentiality not a testament of zombinism? Zombie people, that's what he says. Well, zombie. I don't understand, but then again, I get your point. Let's see, we'll have another tweet very quickly. They are busy politicking while the nation burns on the insecurity with little or zero governance. It took a foreign power intervention to look like common sense is anywhere near the table. Ayodeji Kayode. Ayodeji, thanks for this tweet. It's a conversation we have always had here on News Central, especially on Breakfast Central. That's this program. I will keep highlighting it, politicking or looking at the issues. So it's true what they say. If you join APC, you automatically lose your sense of reasoning. LOL, Edo people don't enter one chance. This one said they don't get sense. And he actually said that. He said they don't have sense. They don't have break. That anything the governor says, they will do.
Let's look at the updated voters register. Are we done with the tweet?
Yes, we're done. We're done with the tweet.
The updated voters register in Edo State, according to Dr. Anubum Onuoha, the State Resident Electoral Commissioner of INEC, who made a presentation at the State INEC office in Benin, said that Edo State, going by the updated voters register, has 2,629,025 intending voters. This was sometime in 2024, September 21st. This was in 2024, right? So if we have, and then they said that prior to the recently announced CVR in the state, the total number of registered voters during the 2023 general election was 2,501,081 voters. So 3.5 million from where?
So the candidate voters registration shows that you have less than 2 million voters who are active, but you have a total of about 2.5. You see, I hope INEC sits up, whether we like it or not this morning. We're waking up with this conversation because it is a very critical conversation that borders on the either one, the impunity or pure or punity, whether you like it or not, whichever you want to put it, of Nigeria's electoral process. So if INEC keeps folding its arms and allowing those who have a loud voice and mouth to keep screaming down that they can in other ways circumvent the system and adjust it to suit whatever they think. For instance, how would you come out and say you're guaranteeing 3.5 when in true sense you don't have that number? So INEC should be able to put out a statement or speak to them and say, listen, going forward, nobody should be able to pervert or allow these kind of things to go on in their own party. I'm also expecting the presidency by now. They should have been able to say, listen, in a democratic setting, we do not in any way encourage. You understand that you love Mr. President. And so this is why I expect the SSAs to come out and talk. Because if it were another party that was doing this, I'm sure other parties too will speak. So I'm expecting them to come out and say, listen, as a party, we do not endorse. I think that's the right word, not condemn, but you do not endorse that party faithfuls go ahead to guarantee XYZ number. And I think the president should also highlight in his speech that if we are doing well, the people will choose.
Again, to mention that, like you just, piggyback off the last statement that you've made. If you've done great as an administration, you don't need to do too much.
Nah.
People's votes will reflect that you've done well. Again, this is the same Edo state that is talking about politics and Asiwaju cap and talking about just being suspended if you don't come wearing Asiwaju cap. Whereas 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago or so, that we talked about the young girl who was kidnapped and Harrison Gwamishu and his team had to intervene to get her rescued. We don't know the full details, but what they could say was that the Edo State police officers security agencies were not cooperative, and we didn't hear a statement by the government. We didn't hear a statement by the APC leaders in the state. If you are going to be doing politics, nobody's saying you should not play politics, but at least show that your politics has a human face. When there are issues that are bedeviling the citizens, speak up, lend your voice. It's not pick and choose. Since you want to, throw your weight behind the governor, nobody says you shouldn't. It's important that we all support our leaders. But while you're doing that, do things the right way. Anyway, let's move on from that conversation to our next conversation. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, has said that Nigeria's constitution forbids religious persecution. And that we agree. But whether or not religious persecution is happening is another conversation. Let's take a look at this video.
Nigeria's constitutional commitment to religious freedom and rule of law. All the answers are in there. And this is what guides us. And this is what shows that it's impossible for there to be a religious persecution that can be supported in any way, shape, or form by the government of Nigeria at any level, be it federal, be it regional, be it local. It's impossible. And our laws are there.
Well, if you're one of the many Nigerians who feel that there seems to be a lot of explanation that's being done or carried out from the presidency, then you may be right. Well, there you have the Minister of Foreign Affairs there highlighting again to the international community that, listen, we are not a country that stops or tries to hold back and forbid other religions from carrying out their either forms of worship or any way they want to carry it out. We're not such. And I think it's very pertinent that the minister did that, breaking it down and showing it in public. However, Olive, I have a problem.
What is it?
And yesterday night, I decided to do this, and let me run it through to our viewers. Let me run it by our viewers, rather. I decided to do that. I decided to take a list of the things that have been done since President Donald Trump of the United States made that statement. Yesterday, the President Bola Tinubu, welcomed an archbishop. And the pictures, guess what, are everywhere. He welcomed a bishop, a man of God, let's put it that way. And he came into the presidency, and there were pictures, photo ops, shaking hands, they had a conversation and so on. And it got me thinking, why this? Why now? Because a few months ago, the people were crying, help us. They are killing us. Wasn't that the right time to have met them? Remember that pre-elections, we had some people who were dressed as reverend fathers and so on. I don't know if you remember. And they were all dressed. They did not need any consent from the president. Neither did they have to meet him. But we saw them actively trying to ensure that they sway votes and participate in the elections, whether we like it or not. We saw those images. We saw the videos. And people kept asking, what's going on here? But let's leave that aside. That's one. Two, we've seen the minister, the video you just saw, where he has gone and is explaining clearly, which is also good. Also, you've had cases where the Senate is now talking on this issue. And it also caused a serious uproar yesterday, where they discussed deeply about how the situation is becoming tough, is escalating, and so on. And you also ask, wait, what's going on? What's going on? But these people have been crying about the killings for the past 2 months. So why didn't they sit down and really discuss this? I can go on and on and on and on and on. Then you have the SSAs. Everybody is now granting 1 or 2 interviews, which is good because it's part of public relations. You need to clear the air and so on. Olive, you can go on and on and on. My point is, let's not always wait till the water runs dry before we try as much as possible to start filling up our drums and buckets. Why don't you do it even before then? Because that would have been the clear story before we got to this level. And that's the truth.
Okay. There are many things I think about when I think. So, by the way, that was a conference in Berlin where the Minister of Foreign Affairs was speaking about this. And I re-echo everything that you've said. The fact that we're now showing, we now feel that pressure to show that we're
the military is showing working.
Tolerant country. Yes.
There's more, military is showing more working now.
The question is, does our constitution allow for freedom of association, which implies our freedom of religion? Yes, it does. However, is there a reality where there are people who are being persecuted as a result of their faith? Can we completely ignore that there's a reality of that? It might, and I know that we keep going about, back and forth with the government. There's a book that I think one should read. It's a book by Archbishop Benjamin Kwashi. It's a book by Andrew Boyd, rather, but the title of the book is Neither Bomb Nor Bullet, Benjamin Kwashi, Archbishop on the Front Line. And in this book, they detail the story of, this Archbishop who has lived the reality of persecution. And the persecution is not necessarily because he's male or anything. It's because of persecution from his faith. He's persecuted as a result of his faith. So we cannot sit here and deny that there aren't people who have experienced this. You speak to the people in the middle belt of Nigeria, and this is a reality for them. And I've said this time and again, how I've been in fellowships where someone raised a prayer point one day that, they started attacking our community again last night. Can you please pray? Is there terrorism? Yes, there is terrorism. Nigeria is battling terrorism. Are there people who are suffering as a result of their faith? Yes. Why did we have to wait for the United States to make a statement for us to take it as seriously as we're taking? These are the questions that, show, again, the heart of the government and make it feel like people don't necessarily believe the sincerity and the political will that the government claims that they have in fighting terrorism. But let's, see what Nigerians are saying, and then we can move to our next story. Again, it is a really, really sad development. Josiah Uche says, the Nigerian Constitution also contains the right to the citizens' safety and security, the right to a fair judicial system, and the right to basic human rights. I do not think any Nigerian will attest to this being observed in the country. That is what Josiah Uche says. The next tweet we have regarding the story, can we please put up the next tweet? Ogechukwu Onye Life says, country's constitution forbids religious persecution, which means the country can cast a blind eye to the killings of Nigerians for religious purposes? ? Let's move on now to our next. Do northern Nigerian Muslims, where he come from, agree that Nigeria has a constitution? Why did they institute Sharia to override the constitution? Why is he saying one thing and practicing another in Nigeria? Wasn't Deborah lynched under the same blasphemy provisions of Sharia law? Why do these people tell lies in the name of their God? Well, that is what Fortis says. Yet, Nigerian constitution recognizes Sharia laws which permits death penalty for blasphemy. Emeka Oraneche says regarding this. These are the tweets, and these are what Nigerians are saying about it. Again, if we as a country want to show that we genuinely value the right of Nigerians to freedom of religion, freedom of religious association, and the right to safety and security, then we must act like it. We must prioritize the safety, security, and welfare of Nigerian citizens. As an offshoot of some of the things that have happened since Donald Trump and the United States stepped into the arena, we have our next story. President Tinubu has declared emergency in security training schools. Recall that there have been an approval of 30,000 new police officers, but he says that these new officers cannot be absorbed to dilapidated structures. The governor of Enugu State, Peter Mba, his counterparts, Dapo Abiodun, and others who are a part of the committee that are championing the revamping of these security training schools, have said, and then the governor of Enugu State, Peter Abba, said that we should be clear that it's not an offshoot of Donald Trump and the U.S. entering into the arena. I don't know why he needed to explain that. It's obvious that the reason he needed to explain that is because Nigerians will not believe. Because all of a sudden, there's a sense of urgency
let me drink my tea,
that we have seen regarding insecurity. Anyway, they say that these security training schools, some of them are dilapidated to the point that their roofs are leaking. You know, they're in the most deplorable conditions, and that these are not conditions, they are conditions unbecoming of a security agent. So they're working on revamping these institutions so that at the end of the day, they can ensure that they can get reputable security agents who will go through this. But again, please be reminded, like the governor said, it's not as a result of the United States threat. Right on.
I have no comment.
Okay.
The only comment I have is why.
It's important.
And why, the why I'm asking, which is WHY, stands for so many things. Were we not aware that the security, Nigeria security apparatus, architecture, name it, was actually shaky? Were we not aware that even the soldiers, the foot soldiers, had recorded many videos crying and asking for help? All of you recall that this is going to be 3 months where we've come on this show and we've said the best way to solve security is to declare a state of emergency on insecurity in Nigeria. What that means is the government can finally say, you know what, while we're working on the economy, we're trying to do the new tax reform, we're doing this, everybody, pause. Provide the basics, but now let's focus on security as number one. I need everybody, all governors, see, insecurity is our agenda, let's deal with it. And the truth, anyway, we'll go on a quick break.
Did you see the update about somebody who says that Aniltech, I saw it on social media, that the Niltech had family members who had come to Nigeria. One of them was visiting Nigeria 15 years.
15 years, and then he was kidnapped.
For 80 million.
For 80 million naira. We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. So just do us a favor. Feel free to go on our YouTube space. You can drop a comment or two.
I can see the comment of Achike Chude and Annie Brown. I will take this comments when we'll come back from the break.
All right. Welcome back. Breakfast Central still on and live. Thanks for staying with us. Don't forget that you can drop a comment or two when you go straight to our social media platforms.
And I think we should actually start by taking comments on social media. We're streaming live on YouTube at News Central TV, and we'd like to take some of your comments and see what you're thinking about this. Good morning to Mokunye Chukwuemeka. Annie Chinedu Brown says that Nigeria is the only country where our present is, or our past is better than our present. I think that's such
a deep one
thing to say. I'm going to read the comment. Said Nigeria is the only country in the world whose past is better than its present. Hence, every bad president will be adjudged better than his successor in Nigeria. Imagine Buhari being missed because ... And then he goes further to say, it takes Trump's tweets for Tinubu to think of appointing ambassadors. It takes Trump's tweets for the government to sit up to his responsibilities. It takes Trump's tweets for the wicked ruling us to react to the insecurities plaguing our country. Except you are complicit, you will not see the merit of Trump's intervention. And Mokunye Chukwuemeka agrees. He says, everybody's on their toes. Is Donald Trump their mate?
Olive, you know, I already highlighted some, and I said I will not be able to continue because if I continue, the list is endless. Part of it is the ambassadorial list. We've been waiting for this.
We have been speaking about this.
We've been talking about this.
Where did the fund miraculously come from? I thought they said there was a funding problem.
Yes.
Where did the fund miraculously come from?
All of a sudden. And last year, remember that we had ex-ambassadors, former ambassadors who joined us here on the program.
Yes.
And part of the conversations they had with us was they're wondering why there's so much delay. Anyway, now back to the insecurity issue we're discussing as well. Declaring emergency insecurity training schools. We've highlighted here, and I keep saying it, I think until insecurity is actually looked at from a state of emergency point of view, that's when we would actually get it right. But as long as we keep treating it like this, the way we're treating it, then I feel we'll keep battling with it headlong. Yesterday, there was also an article in one of the newspapers, and the article made very deep sense. The article highlighted the fact that the president is working on multiple reforms. multiple, from the tax down to the infrastructure and so on. But the highlight of that article was that if insecurity is not dealt with, these reforms will not be enjoyed by all, but only a few. And that's true. Take a look at it. If you don't fix the roads, let's use the Lagos-Ibadan, Binyore, you fix these roads, but there's XYZ percentage of kidnappings on that road. People will not enjoy. What people will remember is, that road, if I pass there. So the article highlighted that, listen, while you're doing these things, handle the most important one, which would also impact on how many investments will come into your country. Right. I can bet you, we read it in the front pages of the newspaper yesterday, right? That in as much as Donald Trump has made a strong statement, whether we like it or not, it inadvertently as well will affect how many investors will be looking at Nigeria again as a beautiful bride, because you'll be wondering what's really going on in that country. In fact,
Monday we talked about how much we had lost at us, with our stocks. Yes, it was a 0.25% margin, not significant enough to shake the economy. Yeah. But with consistent threats like this and the possibility of an invasion, we don't know what the long-term impact might be. We've seen Chad closing it. Chad, that is dependent on us in some measure, closing its border, and Chad is just one of the many countries that can decide, you know what, we don't want to inherit the U.S. Nobody wants to inherit the United States of America as an enemy. But back to the conversation about President Bola Tinubu mandating the team to reform and rehabilitate a number of these
security training schools,
training facilities for the Nigeria Police Force, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, as NSCDC, and other international security agencies. This was prompted by concerns about how outdated and dilapidated these buildings were. The president and his team recognize that modern training modern security personnel requires modern facilities. Now, in particular, one of the institutions that they visited reported dormitories built in the 1940s. Yeah. Joe. 1940s, leaking roofs, inadequate lighting, missing chairs in classrooms. And then the question is, if the building is a building that was established in a country that we don't even have as much of a great maintenance culture, a building that was set up in the 1940s before my mother was born, how efficient do you think that building will be to, in 2025, produce top-class police officers? The building is also reflective of the kind of training that they get. This is why a police officer will stop you, harass you, collect money. We talk about the quality of training that they get. How can we guarantee that the training is up to date when the building that they're staying in is not even up to date? So there are many layers to look at in this conversation.
Olive, in a psychological world of every individual as a human being, your environment impacts heavily on how you reason, how you think, and how you process thoughts, Absolutely. How you live. If your environment is unkept, dirty, it's inhabitable, there is no way that you would function properly.
This thing you just mentioned, even when you get home.
Even your house.
Yes, when you get home and you see your house is clean, your bed is well lit, there's something it does to you.
Or there's power.
Yes, but when your house is a mess, coming back home and you don't know, is there light, is there no light? That already puts you in a very uncomfortable mood. But let's see what Nigerians are saying about the rehabilitation. The committee has been tasked to return with the report within 30 days. But do Nigerians believe that this is not powered by the U.S.? Let's see. Temitayo says, Mr. Donald Trump, we see your hand. If for nothing, our clueless, incompetent, sleeping leaders seem to be awake. God bless you, sir, Temitayo says. And let's move on. This is a strategic masterstroke if executed correctly. No, this is a strategic masterstroke if executed correctly. For years, we've seen police brutality, unprofessionalism, and corruption, not just because of poor pay, but because they are the very institutions meant to instill discipline and ethics were dilapidated relics. Fantastic points there. Harry says, every time there's failure, they announce another state of emergency. What we need isn't more committees or grammar, it's results. After almost a decade of APC rule, insecurity has only worsened. You can't keep repairing what you keep breaking, Harris says. Still talking about the institutions, this is long overdue. You can't build a modern security force in outdated facilities. If executed well, this could be a major step towards real reform, Davy Cruz says on X. At this point, it is very clear that the President of the United States, Trump, is now the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
We don't agree with that. Come on, stop that. Come on.
Nigerians, if you have any problems from now on, simply report your issues to Trump and it will be solved with just a tweet. Now, wow, no. But then again, this is really, see finish. But just to come back and re-highlight that point, that it's important that this is done. You can see the skepticism with which some of the tweets reflected their disbelief even in the commission and the fact that a committee was set up to bring reports in 30 days, because we've seen committee upon committee in Nigeria. Bear in mind, earlier this year, a committee was set up to ensure the implementation of the Onosoi report. They were given 12 weeks. What's the update of that committee?
Was it earlier this year? It was last year.
Was it?
It was last year.
It was last year, my goodness.
It was last year. This year is wrapping up. The committee was also, there are many committees that were set up last year. We've not seen anything.
So Nigerians don't want to see, Nigerians don't want to see a government that says it's going to work. We just want to see results. We don't care about the process. Just show results. And I think that this is a step in the right direction. And I agree with them in terms of if executed correctly, this is a step in the right direction. It would be great for a police officer who is being recruited into the Nigerian police force to stay in a decent apartment, to get up-to-date training. You know, the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps members.
Don't worry, I'm having goosebumps while you're talking.
You don't believe that this will happen?
No. My goosebumps is a reflection of what is simple.
Do you know that
and
even
so possible?
You know that even NYC camp, camps, I think NYC camp was one of the reasons I hated NYC, because of, again, the NYC camp apartments. And I mean, this is NYC will say that this will not concern them, but they say they are paramilitary.
Do we derive joy in just living in pain?
But I think that there needs to be an overhaul of our security agencies, military, paramilitary, and the institutions. And please, this reform, while the argument of whether or not NYC is paramilitary is going on, I want to appeal that it should extend to NYC, because
it has
NYC camps, Joe, I hated it.
It needs a complete reform.
In the morning at 5 p.m., people are having their bath outside because nobody wants to use the bathrooms, because they just have like tiny 3-4 bathrooms for the whole hundreds of people. I said that it felt like NYC was punishment for going to university.
Olive, we want to clearly commend the president for this move. But we've seen that the president has made some strong moves. It is now left for it to be fully executed and completed. So we're hoping that this complete overhaul of the security training school, because whether you like it or not, why we have to commend this idea is that it still trickles down to what we have been saying here on this program, that the only way to tackle insecurity, I'm not a security expert, but of course I do know what I know, that the only way you can tackle something is if you place your, let me use Falsi's language, if you place your focus, if you focus on it headlong and say, listen, I'm going to deal with this without one word, distraction, then you will be able to achieve that. So if the presidency and all the 36 governors say, listen, we've all come together, let them sign a pledge that for the next 8 months, all governors, whether your state is not having any case of insecurity, it doesn't matter, join the force. All governors are...
If your state is not having... I don't think there is any state that can come out to say that they're not impacted by the result of insecurity.
That's it.
We are all touched by it. Because when insecurity hits the food basket of the nation,
it trickles down. Exactly.
Now,
some states might want to say, anyway, in our states, there's no insurgency.
Nobody can post about that.
It means
it affects everybody.
The entire country, everybody pledges, and I hope the government is listening. This is just one of the best ways to go. Everybody pledges, everybody puts their foot down. All the governors of the 36 states and the FCT come together and say, let's do this. And in doing this, you will find out that when they tackle this headlong, I was saying something, take for instance, Lagos State. Lagos State is dark. Lagos State, I'm sorry to say this, but it's the truth. As a journalist, we drive around and we put some scripts and stories together. Some parts of Lagos are completely unsafe. We know what happens in Dirty December. There will be a lot of people who have their own inferior, or I would say ulterior agenda, because you know that people will be moving around town. This is the time for Lagos State. If there was an agenda for security, which I believe Lagos State has, we're supposed to start seeing patrol vans, security vans moving around town.
The same way where before elections, some days before, we see a show of force, we see the army moving around to let us know that if you do anyhow, you see anyhow. So we need to start seeing that, because there's going to be a high inflow of foreigners, which is great for us, because it's also high inflow of FX for us. We also will see that it's business. It's boosting our tourism. Dirty December has become a cash cow for businesses. for SMEs, I think it's a great idea. But we must be able to guarantee people's security when they come into the country. And we do that by ensuring that Third Mainland Bridge, we have policemen around. In certain parts of Lagos, there are policemen around, and that the Agbero, the menace of touts, of Agberos, has to be dealt with.
They are kept in their place. And finally, just to add, while I would say a good move by the president on the training schools to be revamped, is because you cannot also solve an institutional problem without dealing with it from the grassroots.
Charity begins at home.
And the grassroots is the training schools.
Absolutely.
And you've mentioned some buildings that are since 19. If a training school building was last touched or was last what's that word? Was last renovated. Let's say maybe in 1993. Who will renovate the one that they built in 2000?
So just to add to that, while we're working on renovating the training facilities, let's also ensure that we're renovating their curriculum. And we're bringing them up with we're training them with modern best practices of what current realities are. Sometimes textbook training is totally different. It's totally different from the reality. Let's talk about the major issue that Nigerians have to battle with, which is police brutality and corruption. These two major issues are issues that we hope will be handled headlong in the training to ensure that we stop the profiling of Nigerian citizens. Our young people are not always criminals. The fact that someone wears tattoos or dreads, my younger cousin is around, and I've tried my best to not, I feel like I've been a mother hawk around him. I make sure that we're going out at the same time and he's in the car with me, because I'm just nervous about him going out alone and he doesn't even have dreads and any of all those things, which are not wrong in themselves. But because, unfortunately, a number of uneducated people or uneducated officials will see that and think automatically you're a fraudster.
There's so many positives to this story that we're taking on Wake Up Conversation, and we'll say it's a good move by the president, and we hope that, like they say, hope is not a strategy, but we do hope that since the call has been made, the action should actually follow the swift nature in which the call has been made. And hopefully, Olive, if they get it right, if they get the grassroots right and sort it out right, it would in any way trickle down to what we're going to see. In other words, I also look forward to a time where you have graduates who are enrolling as police officers. Yes. Because when they go to these schools, if they're fully revamped, factory AC fitted, no chalkboard, but we're talking about touch screen boards, everything, we can do it.
When I know that we will have made it?
We can
when we can see young people on career day, what do you want to be? We'll see children saying, I want to be a police officer, and their parents will not say, God forbid. That's when
why do we go to New York? We go to New York and we see a police officer, we're like, oh, damn, this police officer is so cute. This is so packaging. And you say a female police officer, she's like, hi, how you doing? And you're talking to her and she's like, oh, she speaks well. She tells you, oh, I'm a graduate of this, I schooled in this. And you're like, oh, wow.
Because they are paid well.
They're paid well.
It's not like a backup plan.
They're taken care of, insurance. This can be done. I can list, Olive, if we continue this statement, I will not leave here. I can use 2 hours to talk about this particular story because there's a lot. But then again, that's all. That's what we're going to take on Wake Up Conversations. And just to highlight again that China has waded into the U.S. invasion story. China says that United States had better watch it. They should not in any way try as much as possible to intimidate Nigeria. But let's take a look at the tweet. There you have it. On November 4, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning chaired the regular press conference. The journalist said, according to reports, U.S. President Donald Trump designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern, CPC, on October 31 on the grounds that Christian communities are being threatened in Nigeria. Anyway, he went on to explain everything, which you know and I know. But this is what Mao Ning said in response. He said, as a comprehensive strategic partner of Nigeria, China firmly supports the Nigerian government in leading its people to a development path that fits Nigeria's national realities. We oppose any country's interference in other countries' internal affairs under the pretext of religion and human rights. We oppose the wanton threat of sanction and use of force. That's what Mao Ning said. And Mao Ning, while speaking, is also speaking for the entire China. Don't forget that it's a foreign ministry spokesperson, and as a foreign minister, you have the right to also reiterate what your country stands for and what they do not stand for. But then again, this reminds me of the great legend and the song of the late Fela Anikulapo Kuti, talking about human rights. Can you give us human rights? They won't give us human rights. and a lot of points in that song, which kind of like highlights what Mao Ning said. But whether we like it or not, let's see how Nigerians are reacting to the Chinese statement. But while he made that statement, yes, this is it, he got a response from
Riley Moore.
Riley Moore said, President Trump is absolutely right to defend our brothers and sisters in Christ who are suffering horrific persecution and even martyrdom for their faith in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. China will not dictate, so he fires back at China, our foreign policy to us, and we will not be lectured to by a communist autocracy that recently arrested 30 Christian pastors for their faith and throws ethnic minorities in concentration camps. Olive, everybody has a skeleton somewhere in their cupboards. And that's where Riley M. Moore has gone to pick out one.
But yes,
talking about the communist autocracy, which, of course, China practices, and not highlighting it that it's quite different from democracy. But then again, Mr. Bishop says, Boko boys and bandits were killing Nigerian Christians. You guys never issued a statement or do nothing. Now you're forming friend of Nigeria. This is Mr. Bishop speaking to the Chinese foreign minister there. Let's see another one very quickly as we move to wrap up Wake Up Conversation. Kana Blog says this is exactly the kind of voice the world needs to hear right now. Nigeria is a sovereign nation, not a playground for foreign politics or Western hypocrisy. No country has the moral right to threaten us with sanctions or military action under the guise of protecting Christians. The insecurity in Nigeria affects everyone, Muslims, Christians, and people of no religion alike. We appreciate China's balanced stance and clear respect for Nigeria's independence. That's what true partnership looks like, not intimidation, not propaganda. It goes on to say that the United States should focus on its own internal divisions instead of trying to dictate to other nations. We, the people of Nigeria, reject any attempt to divide us along religious lines. What we need is cooperation, not conflict. And that's why, some have said they need support. So why haven't you waged a war against China to save the 30 pastors and other minorities thrown in camp? Are you perhaps scared to face China, or the lives of the Christians only matter if they are Nigerians? Very deep and thought-provoking question. Ayo Shogunro says, do you hear the irony in your own statement? The US is free to interfere, but China should mind its own business. The audacity of the white male. Nigeria must solve its problems by itself. You can recommend solutions, but you have no more legitimacy than China does to intervene. Spot on, whether you like it or not, in that statement. But let's wrap things up with this one. But if you think for a second why the sudden show of love and affection, why shift focus to Nigeria right now? What changed? Are you all sure there isn't any motive or something? Everyone is talking about the motive behind the current issues between Nigeria and the sudden interest of the Western world and community. What are your thoughts?
Well,
feel free to share with us as well.
I mean, the reference he made to what happened in China is there were actually arrests.
Yeah.
And these arrests were for people who were deemed to use online platforms to transmit religious material without authorization.
Which is
and China has been very recently, they've been very, very particular about regulating the kind of information that's being transmitted, particularly when it comes to issues of faith. So they don't necessarily have the same position that we have in terms of our religious freedom. Right? Right now, I can wake up today, if I decide that, I want to start a church, I can build a church, get the necessary
you are free to go
registrations, online. No restriction of sorts, but that's not the case in China. So, anyway,
I'll give an example. If Nigeria were to be China, Nnamdi Kanu trial would not be ongoing. It won't. Because the moment he came online and put on his microphone and said, we need this, China would have clamped down immediately. The same goes for other men of God who may engage in practices that are condemnable. That's China for you. Hence why you see them, they manage their own social media space and so on and so forth.
And they allow to the extent of it being regulated. So there's a registered Protestant church. So wasn't
that the same thing the governor tried to do that before you preach? Let me see your document.
Yes, that was in Niger State, right?
No. Was it China State? Does not.
But that's kind of what they're trying to implement. So again, when we are picking practices from several countries, we must also understand: do we have the same kind of laws? Do we have the same system? Is Nigeria a communist state? That's in reference to you saying someone was suggesting that we also start to regulate religious activity to the extent of registering every religious institution. I understand the concerns of why they do that.
Olive.
Oh, yes, I know.
It's going to happen. The time will come. I mean, for those who are close to their Bible, it's going to happen, whether you like it or not. Let's take this final story. I am not in support with the fact that they had to display their images, but then again, I do hear that it's part of the process. DSS, Department of State Services, has dismissed not one, not two, but 115 personnel, and they've warned against imposters. Another Trump decision?
Why are you not in support of them showing their pictures?
Okay, well, these are the pictures of those who have been dismissed. Olive, I think if you dismiss them, it's good you just maybe possibly read out their names. But then again, I also hear that it is part of the practice so that you warn the public in case anybody in this image or these images walks up to you and still carries a DSS card. After all, we've seen impersonators who would impersonate the DSS or the EFCC. But then again, in a tweet, which hopefully we can put that tweet up, DSS says 115 personnel have actually been dismissed from, of course, the DSS. And there you have their images, their names, their faces. You can quickly identify if your brother is there, your aunt is there.
So it was very important for them to do this because, according to the DSS, some of them were still using, the identity of the DSS to commit fraudulent activities. So there was impersonation, claiming to be a DSS official. If tomorrow, New Central, any of us here decide we're no longer continuing our relationship,
we'll drop everything that
New
belongs
Central,
to New Central.
But
if you, like Olive now, use it to be...
Why do you say me? Why do you not use yourself?
No, let me use you now.
Why?
Because you're a living example.
No, why not you?
I can't use myself.
No,
I'm the one talking.
I'm a proud New Central staff through and through. Please, don't allow HR hear this joke. Let's not joke.
Let's use Gbenga. Gbenga is not here.
Gbenga is not here.
If Gbenga decides to now use New Central ID card.
After not being a staff. Let's not use Gbenga.
Yeah.
Let's not use Gbenga. Let's use another show.
Okay.
Do we use Jasiri?
The ladies in Jasiri, they now... No, can't use Jasiri.
Let's not do that. So before... Okay. But you get the point.
Really. But you get the point.
The point is they're trying to prevent people from being defrauded by personnel that may claim to be part of the DSS when they're no longer part of the DSS. And they say that this dismissal is part of the internal framework to ensure that they are kicking against indiscipline, fraudulent activities. It is total in-house sweep and clean of the DSS to ensure that they can give us the best quality of operatives within the Department of State Services. Let's now see what Nigerians are saying about this before we head to our top stories. Dayo says, now that their identities have been made public, shouldn't the service be concerned about terrorist groups trying to recruit them, given their extensive training and deep knowledge of the DSS operations, data systems, and internal secrets? This is valid. Dayo says, if you people really take secrets seriously, you won't spread their face on the internet. They have sensitive information and they are no longer trusted. Crypto Explorer says, I posited a few weeks ago that failure to state the reasons for their dismissal may leave some Nigerians with no option than to be lied to, and I'm happy you confirmed that some persons are still doing business with them. I urge that the Commission state the reason. And the next tweet, this is the kind of internal renewal Nigeria needs across all sectors, one rooted in integrity, professionalism, and accountability. Big ups to the DSS leadership for setting the pace. These are what Nigerians are saying. 115 compromised personnel. I beg, how will I take swear them in as personnel? Feel like saying a palm oil, then rub for their heads, them take swear them in. This is alarming. That's the tweet that we have there. But, Joe?
I don't know. Like, I'm going to take one statement from one of the tweets that's exposing their faces. But then again, like I said, that we do hear from a former DSS personnel that is also part of the process. And ordinarily, you would find companies that would also put out a staff's image on the newspaper, National Daily, and say, this person is no longer a staff of so. Do not.
Yes. Now,
warn the public.
But then the question is, how do we find the line between that thin line between defaming them and protecting your business? Because if a staff of New Central no longer is with New Central,
you don't put it in the newspaper,
and then you put it in the newspaper, you give off the impression that they did something sinister, they committed some form of crime, embezzled or stole from the company.
Absolutely.
And if you did that, the person can decide, this is detrimental to my image.
And then it can sue
Another company can decide to employ me, and when they see this, they will no longer employ me, so they can sue. unless, of course, the company can prove that they really had something sinister against them. So really, it's very difficult to find that fine balance. Again, we're streaming live on YouTube, News Central TV. Please head there, drop your thoughts and your comments, and we'll pick them up. But now let's share with you what our top stories are today on Breakfast Central. This morning on Breakfast Central, Tinubu moves to appoint new ambassadors amid U.S. threat. Moving away from that, Cross River State in focus. We're looking at the latest developments in the state and what the future looks like for Cross River. Now, 70% of attacks on journalists traced to government and the police, according to a report. I will bring you the details of that report. INEC Chairman, stakeholders meet ahead of elections. We're counting down the days to Anambra election as well, and rather the hours. Newspaper front pages will be a key part of today. Join us for all these and more.
Thanks for staying with us here on Breakfast Central. President Bola Tinubu is finalizing the long-awaited appointment of new ambassadors to Nigeria's foreign missions after months of diplomatic gaps and growing pressure over the absence of envoys abroad. Sources within the presidency confirmed that the president has ordered a final cleanup of the list of nominees, some of whom have died, retired, or become ineligible since the initial screening by the Senate. The renewed push to finalize the ambassadorial list comes amid heightened tension following U.S. President Donald Trump's decision to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, accuses the Nigerian government of allowing the killing of Christians and also threatened possible military action. Tinubu had recalled all ambassadors in September 2023 as part of a comprehensive diplomatic review, leaving most of Nigeria's 109 missions, including 76 embassies, 22 high commissions and 11 consulates without substantive heads.
In a related update, President Bola Tinubu has declared an emergency on training facilities for the Nigeria Police Force, NPF, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, and other internal security agencies, citing concerns over their outdated condition. This also comes as the world watches closely as Nigeria takes stronger steps in its fight against terrorism following President Trump's threat. Joining us now to analyze this is Global Affairs analyst Joi John. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll get into the conversation properly, but now let's take a look at this video and then we'll get to start our conversation with you.
We decide on the ambassadors.
Do we have a timeline?
Any moment from now.
Well, any moment from now can be next year.
No, it won't be next year.
Okay.
And I'm sure it won't go past this month.
Okay. And is there any reason why it took this long?
Well, of course, there the government had offered explanation, even Minister of Foreign Affairs had offered explanation. It's about funding. And the last I checked, to most of our embassies, there are different level of, they need a lot of needs, whether vehicles, whether fixing. So you don't really want to send ambassadors who will go and be dealing with problems. So the president plan was to make sure that all the resources they need are made available to them. But like I said, it won't go past this month. We are going to have ambassadors.
Okay.
And that was an interview we had with the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Temitope Ajayi. And you could see the explanation he gave there regarding why the ambassadors have yet to be appointed and why, the presidency is now set to appoint the ambassadors. He said it will happen very soon. Let's now bring in our guest, Joi John. Talk to us about this. The president is now set to appoint these ambassadors after 2 years of no representation. How does this prolonged absence of Nigerian ambassadors affect the country's diplomatic effectiveness? And how much damage control can the nation achieve once these ambassadors have been listed?
It's interesting that it took nearly 2 years for these appointments to happen. Diplomacy doesn't just pause because a government is busy at home. The world keeps moving, the diplomatic community keeps growing, relationships keep evolving. And Nigeria lost valuable time in the last 2 years, really with the absence of ambassadors, especially in a great A mission like Washington here. this is a period where international perception really mattered, and Nigeria was lacking here. But on the bright side of it, it's really good to see that the presidency is moving to fill that gap. To the second part of your question, in terms of the damage control here, once new ambassadors are appointed, whether it's passes this month, as the SSA to the president had said, or it comes up in the next month or two, they'll need to get working from day one. Focus on rebuilding credibility and reestablishing Nigeria's voice in our key missions, particularly the Grade A missions. We had an ambassador in Washington, the late Professor Ambassador Defoye. He was a fantastic diplomat, astute diplomat for Nigeria, one of the best Nigeria has ever had in the world. How he died in Washington is still a mystery, but in his time, Nigeria had a lot of respect amongst the diplomatic community. So we would need someone in a country like the U.S. who will stand to defend Nigeria, be bold, not shy away from Nigerian groups like we've had in the past. We want someone who will be for all Nigerians and not just for a particular part of the country. We want someone who would sell Nigeria to the world. That's all about diplomacy.
Okay. Looking at the ambassadorial list, you just mentioned a former ambassador who had died. First off, I want us to go into the situation clearly. Now that we do not have ambassadors, you're in America, what has been the impact, especially for Nigerians who are living in the United States, who might want to quickly have one or two interactions, or better still, in this particular case of Donald Trump and Nigeria, no envoys, no nothing. What has it been like for Nigerians there?
Well, quite honestly, we've seen, in a nutshell, it's been okay. I would want to also give credit to His Excellency Ambassador Samson Tibuje, who is the Charge d'Affaires in Washington. He's shuttled between Washington and New York, but he has kept the doors open for Nigerians. He has been accessible. He has had his office open for everyone. You have a problem, you can meet him and he will resolve it. So he's been great. We really haven't felt that vacuum on this level as citizens. What do the average citizen in Nigeria, in the U.S. or in diaspora wants to achieve? Passports, consular services, and the likes. But in terms of engagement, Charge d'Affaires are really limited to what they can do for the country on a broader scope and how they can interact, or how much they can interact with the State Department. The citizens in groups, it's fine. We don't feel anything as long as an ambassador or Charge d'Affaires. We don't see anything. But in terms of Nigeria's position, a full ambassador will do a lot. So it's a very important step for them to bring in a full-fledged ambassador to Washington, because when an ambassador is appointed to any accredited to any country, it shows that the sending country is willing to engage, willing to make amends, willing to listen. So if managed transparently, I think that it would really show the seriousness on the part of the Tinubu administration.
You have said that the Charge d'Affaires, and rightfully so, their work and the scope of influence is limited. They might do great work, but there's only to a certain extent that they can get to. So definitely there's an importance, a huge necessity for the ambassadors to be appointed. But like you saw in that interview, the presidency said that, the reason they hadn't been appointed up until now is because of funds, access to funds, and the lack of it. Would you say that the reason why they're being appointed now is because the presidency has been able to, in some measure, rally the funds? Or can we clearly say that it is directly related to the threat by the President of the United States?
That's a sweet question. I'm trying to find the best words to answer that. Why it took this long, or why I had to take a tweet from the U.S. president on Saturday to make these changes public, or is something that really baffles me. Look, I've seen more press statements since the weekend than I've seen in the past month. It's back to back. Everyone is writing how we're working, how we're doing this. You didn't have to take the U.S. president to threaten Nigeria for this. Yes, they talked about funding. That's something the Ministry of Foreign Affairs really would be in a better position to explain. But we've also had some projects going on in Nigeria that could have been shelved to ensure that Nigeria had its representation across board. But that's by the way. Where there's a will, there's a way, and I'm just really happy, and I want to focus on the positive here, that the presidency is looking to make amends, regardless of if they were preempted by the tweet or the threat by the U.S. president. We would like to see how it goes, and even the U.S. itself would want to see accountability. That's all they want. There has to be some kind of consistency and accountability for Nigeria.
I mean, just to clarify that we do not have an official list yet. We're looking forward to that, but we're going by the statement given to us by the presidency that this will happen soon. I mean, I clearly asked him, my colleague asked him, soon can mean next year, and he clearly said it will not be next year. The year is almost coming to an end. We have a few weeks left, so we're expecting the list any moment now. What sort of impression, however, would you say that this has given to the international community? How would you say that this has affected our reputation, or has it affected our reputation on the international scene?
What particular?
The fact that we haven't had, the fact that we haven't had ambassadors up until now. Until now, rightfully. So
I'll say this: Nigeria is respected on the international scene. Amongst the diplomatic community, Nigeria commands a certain level of respect that is an envy to other countries from the African region. With that said, there are still roles that ambassadors play in diplomatic settings. When that vacuum is there, it's really hard to manage whatever perception. Of course, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and there will be times like this. There will be times where Nigeria will be full, they'll be full of praises for Nigeria. But this vacuum may not, even though I would like to say that it has not negatively affected the country as a whole based on the respect Nigeria has had over time. Even here, Nigeria has a lot of successful citizens in diaspora who are working. So you can't really fault Nigeria, but we can't continue to ride in the cloud. We can't continue to ride with that and be comfortable. It may not be a negative impact, but it's definitely a hole there, and I would love to see that hole filled up as soon as possible, just to manage whatever negative perceptions that may be growing, especially in light of this alleged genocide, on Christians in Nigeria. We need someone to manage it. We need talks. We need engagement with the diplomatic community. We need engagement with the State Department. The State Department needs to know. There has to be a one-on-one. There has to be some dialogue, and in the absence of dialogue, whatever perception people want to run with, they will run with. Okay.
Let's leave the ambassadorial conversation now and go straight to the major one, which has caused a stir. The threat of invasion and how Nigerians are taking it. I'd like to get some form of clarity and understanding on how Nigerians in the diaspora are taking it. Because down here in Nigeria, it's a mixture. It's a mixture of people. I mean, from our polls, we can see people who are saying, come through Trump. It's about time our leaders are taught a lesson on how to handle insecurity. They're trusting on the American firepower and their zest. While on the other side, you also have Nigerians who are saying, please do not, because you're not going to come here for free. You will want something in return. And then, as usual, if you go to X, it's all vibes. Everyone is having fun, catching cruise, as they say. But how are Nigerians in the diaspora taking that story as soon as it dropped? Can you share with us?
Well, you put me on a very tight spot. Now, I have seen the banter on Twitter. I have also seen calls in certain groups, certain political groups, asking for Nigerians to come out and protest against Trump. I don't know anybody that's going to do that. I mean, I don't know who's really going to leave their comfort of their offices or their homes to go protest in this. I mean, really, I think from my test, against the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. This could boil down to for sure have families back home. We all understand what's going on. We all know how the economy is, the state of the economy, and the progress being made. We know that. So when most people are going on, so when you see the status of things at home, and you know that, look, the call you have no business going to protest for any call got itself into. And I'm not focusing on the present administration because I've only been here for 2 years, but in the past administration, there were times that things should have been done better with the Ambassador Emenike, who was in DC. That was not done. We failed to capitalize on certain things. So Nigerians were really detached from that tenure in Washington, I will tell you. Very detached. In fact, New York, the consulate in New York, the permanent mission in New York is more of the Mecca for Nigerians, really. So if you touch one, you touch all. But here in Washington, I don't see any vibe really on anyone who cares about what's going on or to counter the U.S. government, really. So we would like to join our voices with our brothers and sisters back in Nigeria. You know, because they're on ground, they feel it, so they would like to just amplify their voices, if anything.
And from what you've seen, given the trajectory of President Donald Trump, those who, I mean, we've had guests on the show who say, particularly the SSA to the presidency on media and publicity, who joined us on Monday, the one whose clip we played, he did say that, of course, he didn't take him seriously, but do you take that threat by President Donald Trump seriously, and how do you think the presidency in Nigeria should take it?
So, you know, with U.S. President Donald Trump, he's quite unpredictable. He's not your typical politician. However you want to assess his personality, you never know what he's going to do next. That puts everyone on their toes around him. So can he do that? Absolutely, he can carry this out. But I will tell you this, the closest military base for the U.S. on the African continent is in Djibouti, the nation of Djibouti, and that's about 2,000 miles away from Nigeria. Before that attack is launched, you're not going to bring troops from the U.S. or from Washington or from New York or wherever, the National Guard, to come out to Africa. No, it will have to be from the base in Djibouti. Now, before that has to happen, a lot of work has to go in, a lot of logistics has to go in. So can it be done? Yes, it can. When? How? I don't know. America has the B-12 bombers. They have the stealth bomber, whatever it is. Whatever they have to do can be done. It just all depends on how they want to go about it. Do they want it to be a long-term mission in Nigeria, or do they just want it to be quick and swift? And we just saw that about 2 months ago recently, where the stealth bombers went in, carried out the mission, and came right back to U.S. soil. But we don't want this to escalate. I would really not. Nobody wants this to escalate. We want this managed. And that's why I am very happy that the presidency is taking steps to put out representation and correct any misconceptions. That's really all what people want. So there are steps to this. It's not going to be an overnight thing. However, the negative impacts for this will be the elections are around the corner. And of course, people are already warming up for the 2027 elections. If the U.S. military is on ground for a prolonged period, we might as well just say bye-bye to the 2027 elections. And that's what I don't think any government will want a foreign presence or foreign boots on ground at this moment.
All right. Let's also look at the possible response that we did hear, especially from Nigeria here. I mean, you've talked about people in Washington, they don't really care what's going on, but possibly those in New York and other states are very interested in what's really happening between the United States president and that of Nigeria. Can you also shed more light on the political landscape in the United States? I mean, we've seen some of the politicians talking and putting so much interest in Nigeria. But in Nigeria is also a response story where our own politicians here from the Senate are equally responding. Some are talking tough and so on. What are those with political interests? What are they saying about this story?
So you see, I've seen comments from public officials. There was a tweet from Congressman Moore on this issue. So it's divided. Most Republicans, of course, are in full support of President Donald Trump. He has a cult following. But again, the political tone to this really cannot hold water. Regardless of what the people think or regardless of what the US politicians say, don't allow anyone to write your story. You have the powers to write your story and craft your narrative. At this point, Nigeria has left a vacuum for misrepresentation, misunderstanding. We just have to make steps now to correct whatever negative conceptions that any side of the divide has. Regardless, again, and just to follow up to what I said earlier, no one really wants we just started re-enjoying democracy. We've been managing democracy for how many years now? So we cannot afford any rift. So there may be a political undertone, and that's why the presidency sees, and I believe the presidency sees the urgency to nip things in the bud now. If they come in, like I did say, we may as well forget about the 2027 elections. That will be done. I don't see them coming in and going out. They will stay in to put law and order. We've seen it happen in the past. It may spiral and, things will go out of control, or, it may be swift and sweet or quick, however you want to look at it. So politically, I don't want to really dwell more on that. I would like Nigeria to rather just rise up to the occasion and do what they have to do, regardless of whatever undertone there is.
All right, Joi John, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We do not want things to spiral out of control. Ultimately, what we want is a secure Nigeria for Nigerians, where everyone feels safe, secure, regardless of religious expression. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. There's still more to look at this morning on Breakfast Central. We're going to break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversations.
Welcome back. Cross River State government has revealed plans to launch the Cross River Social Investment Program, CRSIP, a non-political multi-sectoral initiative to empower the elderly, women, youth, and vulnerable groups. Now, this comes as Governor Basi Otu presented a 780.59 billion naira budget proposal for the 2026 fiscal year, describing it as a budget of inclusive growth aimed at deepening its administration's people-first philosophy and improving citizens' quality of life.
In a notable policy shift, Governor Otu announced that his administration will now assess progress through the Human Development Index, HDI, rather than the Gross Domestic Product, GDP, measuring success by how much better the people live, learn, and thrive. The government pledged expanded access to education, healthcare, and social protection. Reviewing the outgoing year, Otu noted that the 2025 budget of sustainable growth was revised from 538 billion naira to 642 billion naira, following improved revenue inflows and prudent spending. He highlighted key achievements, including 95% routine immunization coverage, the maternal and neonatal mortality reduction initiative, and major road projects such as the Adiabo-Ikoneto Road, Esukutan Depot dualization, and the Yahe-Ebo-Wanakom axis. Joining us now this morning is the Commissioner for Information in Cross River State, Erasmus Ekpang. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you so very much. Good morning, viewers. Yeah.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Now, let's go to our first question and talk about the budget proposal. We can see that there's a 17% increase from last year's 642 billion naira. Cross River State now has earmarked 519.6 billion naira for capital projects, which is 67% increase for capital projects, and 260.96 billion naira, which is 33% for recurrent expenditure. Now, the economic sector receives about 421 billion naira, followed by 163 billion for social services. Now, let's talk about basically what the government will do in ensuring the effective utilization of this 67% capital expenditure allocation.
That's about 17% increment, yeah, because I think we had witnessed an increase in revenue inflows through FACT and IGR. And then that was the essence of the about 17% increase. And then we have seen that our revenues are so improved. In short, even coming from that was the essence we took on the reverse budget for 2025 from about 518 billion to 642 billion. Yeah, so I think we are doing well as a state. Our revenue has improved, of course, even from the fact we are seeing some level of improvement from the federal allocation because of the removal of the oil subsidy. So that was the essence of that increase here.
Okay, just to follow up with something that I said earlier, the government has said they will no longer be judging improvement in quality of life by the GDP, and that they're going to be using the Human Development Index, the HDI, which sounds very exciting. I mean, when we hear that there's been an improvement, when we're talking about issues like inflation, one of the arguments we hear from the average Nigerian is that it hasn't trickled down to to those in the lower cadre of society, it hasn't trickled down to how we purchase things and how much things cost in the market. So what are the metrics that the government will be using to judge these?
Thank you very much. So this budget actually said, to actually is designed to, consolidate on the gains of the People's First mantra of Senator Prince Basededo too. And for 2026, we're actually going to involve people directly, these vulnerable people, the less privileged, the youth, women, elderly, from the investment program, the social investment program. This program would actually take almost about 20,000 persons out of poverty line. We're looking at seeing, we're taking these persons totally out of poverty line. We didn't want to look at the GDP improving and all that. We want to reach people directly, and this will be reached so directly to these persons. And of course, we have about 20,000 persons that will be reached out of the 196 wards of the state, political wards of the state. And of course, it's not political, it's not tribe, it's for every other person that's residing in Cross River State and in this ward, so that they will feel the impact of this, this gesture personally. So that is why we're trying to make sure this now directly, which is actually the basis of this human capital index, to actually reach these people directly, touch to them, and then, of course, we're hoping that many lives will be touched in 2026 with this budget. Yeah.
All right. Governors have agreed that the budgets that they receive from the federal allocation has increased. This is a known say, or especially from different governors across the 36 states. And Cross River is not left out. But we do hear, and would like you to clarify, that some residents in Cross River say that it's not fully trickling down, especially to the livelihoods. How true is this? And what is the governor doing to ensure that these increases definitely will reach every home?
So very much. It's just very, very clear and open that Cross River State hosts about a population of more than 4 million. And of course, when you talk of governance, we are, it's definitely not going to be 4 million reach and touch at the same time. Like looking at this social investment program His Excellency has launched, is actually trying to reach out to at least 20,000 persons from the 196 wards. Of course, it's not going to be every other person of the 4 million, but definitely people will be reached. And apart from that, we have a lot of policies and programs we have set in place that actually touch, the normal person on the roads from, we take it from bottom to top. We are doing a lot of electricity projects. We are doing solar lights everywhere, grading roads everywhere. States have been, earmarked for, for people to actually, utilize. Of late, the governor had actually settled out about 108 mini tractors to farmers and all that, and shared according to the wards and all that. So, like I said, definitely, it's not definitely going to be the whole 4 million people. We still have some pockets of persons that actually believe it should actually reach them, touch them personally and all that. But generally, we talk about the social vices in the state. I think we have had so much improvement in the state under the administration of Senator Prince Basededo. Almost every other sector is so well touched: the health, education, agriculture, aviation, and all that. So I think gradually, it's just about it's almost 3 years for us, 2 years some fractions. I believe generally people will actually see that social well-being improvement in the state. Lights now, they are still good roads. They can actually ply roads that were never done or ever existed in life. A lot of grants have been given for agriculture of late. His Excellency empowered about 400 persons with about 800 million naira. Most farmers going on with about 2 million naira each and all that. So they are in stages and strata. It's not definitely going to hit the 4 million people. But I want to assure you that Cross River State is in the good hands, and we're doing very, very well to ensure that one thing His Excellency does not joke with is its borders on education, health, and of course infrastructure, and that's where we're thriving very, very well on.
Let's look at the Lagos-Calabar coastal road. That's another conversation, because whether you like it or not, you cannot remove Calabar and the likes from that construction or infrastructure. Have there been any worries in terms of the impact it would have, be it negative or positive? And what's Cross River doing concerning that to ensure that whatever is being built or constructed will in a way tie into the same futuristic idea or plans?
Very much. First of all, I want to commend President Bola Tinubu for the gesture of trying to drag the road down to Calabar. And of course, thank the good luck we have from a very visionary leader and God-fearing leader, Senator Prince Basedotu, because since his session as governor, a lot of wonderful, miraculous things have been happening to Cross River State, and have put Cross River State in a better light, out there. Yes, the road is very, very important to us. Of course, the importance of the road outweighs the negative sides of the road. Of course, we know with these roads now, Cross River State is noted as producing one of the best species of cocos. Of course, we have oil palms and oil estates everywhere. We have a lot of agricultural produce that would actually easily be taken out, to the west. Of course, looking at it even geographically, you see that Cross River State is closer to one of the biggest, the Chinas, when you talk of the biggest economies in the world. So it's very easy with the deep sea port we're about, actualizing now. It's very, very easy for us to actually take products. The roads are now closer, third, and yet once in a while I go inspect how far they've gone here, and I'm very impressed with the work, that is going on here. We're very excited that even coming into Calabar right now as I speak to you, apart from the air fleet, where His Excellency has doubled some 2 more CRJ aircraft to ensure that most of our Crossriverans are taken in and out of the state. We have this very deplorable state of road, of Calabar road, that is very difficult for us to assess our neighbors in Uyo. So with this superhighway, honestly, it's going to create employment, it's going to boost our business. We have a lot we are doing when it comes to business in Cross. Held a lot of economic summit, and it's paying in for us. So we need to actually, be able to reach out to other neighboring, states, to actually sell most of our products, get them, engage them in a lot of things. And of course, it's going to bring development too. Most of our youths, our agreement where most of them would actually be employed, when it comes to supplying most of these raw materials for, the grading of this road. That would take a lot of criminals off the roads. And of course, it's going to woo so much investors into the state. So I think it's a very good one. It's highly commendable. And I pray so much that honestly, we see that this road comes to actually, be completed. Of course, Cross River State, you will now see a lot of agricultural produce and a lot of things we can sell out and easily take out to Lagos, Enugu, wherever, very, very easy. And that would even cut short, the cost of a lot of agricultural produce we do.
Absolutely. Here. And even tourism. There's so much beauty that Cross River State holds. A number of us would love to explore it and have one beautiful direct access to Cross River from Lagos State. Such as the Calabar Festival. Is the Calabar Festival coming back? Is it being hosted this year?
Sorry, come again.
I was talking about the beauty that Cross River State holds. So many the beauty in terms of culture and tourism. And then I asked about the Calabar Festival. Are we having it this year?
Calabar Carnival, it's one of the biggest products we sell out of Africa. We run the carnival as a country. We have one of the best and longest routes in Calabar. We have about a 12-kilometer walkway. We are actually celebrating 20 years of carnival since the inception of our past governor, Donald Duke. So as I speak with you, it's going to be the 20th anniversary. We have already done the initial opening and breaking, launching of this carnival, which is Shared Prosperity. I want to personally invite you guys to Calabar. It's going to be very wonderful. As I speak with you, Calabar is a different place. It's a wonderful and beautiful city to be in, especially during the carnival. We are top notch when it comes to cultural activities, and of course we know how we run carnival. And of course, this year's carnival is going to be the last carnival the state is actually going to get himself involved with some level of financing and all that. It's going to be going forward is going to be sponsored by partnerships, partners and all that. We are all in line with all that. So I think the carnival is going to be a bomb this year. We are expecting a lot of people from the Caribbean, the diaspora. We had even gotten expectations from the mayor of Birmingham. A lot of people are going to come in for this carnival. It's our 20th anniversary, and it was well launched and opened up. So I think it's going to be very, very beautiful. Of course, you know how it is in Calabar. We're going to spray and paint all our buildings. We're going to paint all the buildings in the carnival walkway. And of course, as I speak with you now, a lot of designs have been going on. We're trying to put the streets where the carnival walk, the 12 kilometer, will be in top notch. So you are invited, actually. I'm inviting you guys to have an experience of what it is like.
Management is happening. Maybe we'll come and present Breakfast Central live from the Calabar Carnival. Thank you very much to our Commissioner for Information in Cross River State, Erasmus Ekpang, for joining us this morning on Breakfast Central, and see you at the Calabar Carnival.
God bless you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. We'll go on a break now, and when we return, we have other conversations. Please stay with us.
Welcome back. The INEC National Chairman, Professor Joi John, has reaffirmed the Commission's dedication to ensuring a peaceful, transparent and credible off-cycle Anambra State governorship election scheduled for Saturday, 8 November 2025. Amukita gave the assurance at the stakeholders meeting in Awka, the Anambra State capital. News Central correspondent Austin Azu tells us more in this report.
It's few days to the Anambra State off-cycle governorship election, and the electoral umpire, INEC, is leaving no stone unturned to ensure the Commission conducts a free, fair and acceptable exercise across the 21 AGAs of the state. After the signing of the peace accord by 16 participating political parties, INEC National Chairman Professor Joi John met with stakeholders to provide updates and information about preparedness for the poll.
From the International Federation of
The INEC National Chairman Professor Amopita said all non-sensitive materials have been distributed to the 21 local government areas, and the beavers has been fully configured and tested.
Following the conclusion of the voters' registration exercise and the subsequent cleanup of the database, the Commission on the 4th of September 2025 approved a final register of 2,802,790 voters for this election.
On security arrangements, the IGP, represented by DIG Benjamin Okolo, who is in charge of the Force Intelligence Department, said strong security measures have been put in place to safeguard personnel, voters and materials throughout the process.
The Nigerian Police Force will provide sufficient officers and men who will be deployed to cover all 4,608 polling units, ensuring voter safety, ballot integrity, and the protection of election officials.
Meanwhile, how prepared are residents of the state for the November 8th exercise?
We want to be sure that Anambrarians come out en masse on time and vote for their preferred candidates. And there's no doubt about the readiness. You can see everyone is here. The stakeholders were ready, we are waiting.
No, it's very clear. We are prepared. We have given sensitization to our young people, members, in all the nooks and crannies of the state.
I say if I get a voter's card, when they do, I will go and vote. Anybody who I like.
As residents ready themselves for the election, expectations are high for INEC and security agencies to facilitate a peaceful and acceptable poll. In Anambra for News Central, Austin Azu.
The countdown is on, whether you like it or not, and it's going to be this weekend. You can trust News Central Television. We will be live on ground, giving you bit by bit, and like they say, blow by blow account of every single thing happening at the Anambra gubernatorial elections. So make sure you keep a date with us. Away from that, Justice Dorcas Agishi of the Federal High Court sitting in Jos, Plateau State, has adjourned to December 11, 2025, the case between the National Vice Chairman of the Labour Party, Erasmus Ekpang, INEC, and the Labour Party. Ekpang was in court to challenge INEC and the Labour Party for failing to recognize him as the acting national chairman of the party after Supreme Court ruling that sacked Julius Abure in April 2025. The Constitution of the Labour Party says that the vice chairman of the party takes over the seat at the expiration of the chairman's tenure until a convention is held to elect a new one. Ekpang says that his rule, or this rule, I beg your pardon, has not been adhered to and is an infringement of the party's constitution. Take a listen.
We received a series of letters to the INEC. Up to today, that has not been effected. And we deem it fit, as a law-abiding citizen, to come to the court to interpret that ruling, that if Abure has been removed, there should be any vacuum in the party. And then the next person to him is myself, who is the deputy national chairman of the party. And it is clearly stated in our constitution that once a situation like that occurs, his deputy will take over. I'm here today to compel INEC, by coming to court to compel INEC to upload my name as the acting chairman of the Labour Party.
It's normal. The court does have the right to adjourn to look into issues. So we will not pressure the court. We know that it's in line with their duties and it's in line with what they do. But we're hopeful for a positive result at the end of it all.
The tenure of the former chairman has already expired, and by the Constitution of the Labour Party, the next in command is clearly written in Article 15 of the Labour Party, Article 14 of the Labour Party Constitution. You'll see that the next in command is the deputy chairman of and then the assistant secretary, of course, takes over the secretary of the party, and that is why we are here.
The House of Representatives was thrown into a rowdy session during plenary following the rejection by lawmakers of several motions of urgent public importance raised on the floor of the House. The first motion sought to investigate an alleged illegal allocation of federal government lands at the Lagos International Trade Fair Complex and mismanagement of funds, which was rejected along with other motions seeking interventions. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, reports.
Say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
Tension fled at the day's plenary session as members of the House of Representatives disagree sharply over which committee should handle an investigation into an alleged illegal allocation of federal government lands at the Lagos International Trade Fair Complex.
Most worried as hundreds of billions of revenue that should be generated from the complex is going to pockets through misappropriation of lands in the Lagos International Trade Fair.
The motion, raised as a matter of urgent public importance, sought to mandate the House Committee on Public Assets to probe the matter. But disagreement quickly followed when some lawmakers argued that by the rules of the House, oversight of the complex falls under the Committee on Commerce, not public assets.
Order 20 sub 28 puts the Trade Fair complex completely under the oversight of the House Committee on Commerce.
A public asset is not being sold. There's a committee vested with the responsibility by this House to oversight.
Following amendments and counter-amendments across the chamber, tension rose, leading to the rejection of other motions and subsequently a call for a closed-door session. The day's sitting later continued as the minority leader of the House appealed for the suspension of the House rules to allow additional motion, bordering on the non-payment of some local contractors, not on the other paper.
The House notes the plight of local contractors who had protested severally in the past and are presently protesting at the gate of the National Assembly and intend to continue with the protest for the next 1 week.
Following prayers of the motion, lawmakers unanimously agreed to suspend legislative activities in solidarity with the aggrieved contractors.
The urgency of the matter and the sensitivity of the motion that was moved demand that this House should do adjourn until next week so that the leadership will have an ample time to digest with the executive.
The session, which started rowdily with lawmakers engaging in heated debates, later ended more calmly. In Abuja for News Central, Idonk Joseph.
Well, it's good to see the lawmakers disagree on certain things, especially things that have to do with economic importance and interest. The trade fair is a conversation to look into. Remember the recent demolitions as well. And when you tried to set up a committee to look into that, that conversation was bordering on which of the committees would handle it. And that's where you had the back and forth. But then again, like we've always said here, it's not about the number of committees or the type of committees that is set up. It is about the results that will come out from either of the committees that have been set up to look into the issues.
I mean, I don't need to add anything to what you said. It's not about committees again, it's about results. And good thing that is agreeing on, like the people who say, we can't disagree, we are zombies, we don't have sense when it comes to...
If they say we are zombies, if they say we should...
That's, in case you're wondering what we're talking about, is Edo State APC Chairman. But we're going to break now. When we come back, I'll be bringing you breakfast headlines. Please stay with us. Welcome to Breakfast Headlines. Let's now take you through the stories this morning. The Department of State Services on Tuesday said several high-profile terrorism suspects are currently facing trial across the country as part of efforts to strengthen national security and enforce accountability. The security agency said 5 men are being tried over the June 2022 attack on St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, which left more than 40 people dead. Several suspects are also facing terrorism charges over the June 2025 Yelwata massacre in Benue State, where dozens were killed. According to the DSS Director General Tosin Ajayi, the ongoing prosecutions show the commitment of security agencies to ensuring that perpetrators of terror are brought to justice in line with the rule of law. And now to another information regarding security. 6 border communities between Kano and Katsina states, comprising Chanono, Saure, Gorondote, Ongwantudu, Ongwantamiya, Furuwa, and Dodona, all in the Chanono local government area of Kano State, have accused the Katsina State government and the Mieti Ala Cattle Breeders Association in Katsina State, providing an enabling environment to attack bandits or for bandits to attack their communities. Residents of the community say that neighboring Musawa local government area of Katsina State has signed a peace deal with the terrorists, allowing them to use the local government area as a launch pad to carry out attacks in neighboring Kano State communities. News Central's crew visited the 6 communities and met with locals on ground in Chanono local government area of Kano State.
Be the river that divides Kano and Katsina. If I cross this river, I'll be in Katsina, in Musawa local government specifically. Now the controversy here is the fact that the people of Musawa have accepted to live peacefully with bandits and terrorists, but the people of Saure and Chanono are not. So, and the agreement is the fact that whenever the bandits cross this river to come and harass people here, terrorize people here, the agreement is that by the time they cross to Musawa, the Musawa people should give them cover. I'm here with the community leader who is going to give me an insight of what really transpired.
Abin da yake faruwa ba mu da nisa tsakaninmu da gulbi, kuma in ka zo gulbi kana haye gaba ka shiga birnin wannan shine gaba, in ka haye gabar karshen gulbin ka shiga cikin Katsina Musa local government. Saboda ta nan gurin wannan mutane suka samu dama suke zuwa suna kashe mana mutane, suna kwace mana dabbobi da dai sauransu domin da daurin gindin Musa local government.
Wato daga can Musawa kenan duka. Okay. Wato sun zo suka yi satin sun tashi daga nan.
Suna da sun haura wannan sun sha. Suna haura wannan rafin sun sha.
Sun samu immunity.
Ba wani abin da ba wanda zai ce masu komai.
Domin ni kusan mu ne cibiya. Saboda a garinmu jami'an tsaro suka samu nasarar kashe wasu da kuma a nan ne aka kona mana motocin sojoji guda biyu aka kashe mana soja guda ɗaya dan banga guda ɗaya
dan civil defense
dan civil defense aka kashe mana shi wanda yake dan uwanmu ne kuma garinmu yake abin da ya faru da shi jami'an tsaro sun yi kokari sosai kwarai matuƙa banda Allah ya kawo kaddara da cewar sai sun taba mana soja da wannan simple defense wannan sulhu da aka yi na Musa shi ya haifar mana da matsala domin idan da Allah ya sa yadda aka tarfa yadda jami'an tsaron mu suka yi kokari anan a ce Musa ma ta ba da jami'an tsaro sun to sun sa mutanen nan tsaki an yi kwaba ko sun zo nan sun yi aiki babu damar babu wanda ya isa haura nan ba zai shigo ba to saboda haka mu kiran da zamu yi wa gwamnati mun yaba musu kwarai da gaske mun yaba wa gwamnatin jiha da ta tarayya ta ba mu gudunmuwa na jami'an tsaro da ta bayan muna so ta ƙara mana amma shawarar da zan bayar da Allah ya sa ni wani ne a ƙasar nan shawarar da zan bada guda ɗaya ce duk inda wata ƙungiya take ta wani wannan ta filani wadda ake kira biyar Allah to gwamnati ta kashe ta saboda farkon abin da ya faru gwamnati wannan ƙungiya ta miyar Allah ita ce ta ɗaure wa ɓarayin nan gindi har suka ƙarfi haka.
Wealth inequality has been declared a global emergency by leading experts who warn it threatens democracy and social cohesion worldwide. On Tuesday, a committee headed by Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz called on G20 leaders meeting this month in South Africa to establish a dedicated panel to address the crisis. This proposed inequality panel draws inspiration from the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, aiming to analyze risks and recommend solutions. Stiglitz emphasized that the G20, representing 85% of the global GDP, plays a crucial role in setting international rules that will curb inequality.
We expect over the next 10 years something like $70 trillion will be passed on from one generation to the next, creating an inherited plutocracy. So there's a climate emergency and there's an inequality emergency. Inequality is a choice. It is something we can do something about. And the second is, if we're going to do something about it, we have to do it on the basis of knowledge.
It correctly asserts that inequality is, in the end, a betrayal of people's dignity, an impediment to inclusive growth, and a threat to democracy itself. So we have the means to build a fair and a just and equal world.
And that's all that we have this morning on Breakfast Headlines. We'll now continue with Breakfast Central. I am Olive Emodi. Welcome back to Breakfast Central. We now will be going into the newspapers, and just to let you know that you also get to be a part of the review process. All you need to do is to join our live stream, News Central Live. We're streaming on YouTube, and then drop your comments there. We also will be opening the phone lines and taking a few calls, so feel free to react to any of the stories. We're joined by public affairs analysts. To my extreme right, I have Nelson Ekujimi, and my immediate right, I have Olusegun Okwade. Thank you for joining us this morning, gentlemen.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning, viewers.
Mr. Akujimi, this is not your Ashwaju cap. Why are you wearing the one that's like you're supposed to wear Infinity cap now?
Well, that's the new style in town.
Sorry?
This is the new style in town.
This is the new style in town. Ah, okay. In Edo State, this is not the new style. If you were an official in Edo State, we bounce you out this morning. In fact, your suspension letter is waiting for you by 9 a.m.
That is in Edo, but this is
Lagos.
I don't know the Lagos. I see that.
Lagos don't be Edo.
Okay, Lagos don't be Edo. Let's get into the papers this morning, and we'll begin with the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. On the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, the big story we're seeing here is court orders PDP Damagum to proceed with November 15th and 16th convention. Recall that just yesterday we spoke about the court's convention and the court's decision regarding the PDP convention and how the court had banned the PDP. We had Adetokunbo PS join us, and he said the convention was going to go ahead regardless. But we can see here that the court has ordered the PDP and Damagom to proceed with November 15-16 convention. So yay for PDP. The court directs INEC to attend and monitor proceedings. North Central meeting splits over resolution to back Damagom. I wanted to say New Central, but it's okay, it's not Central. Court gives Nnamdi Kanu till today to defend terrorism charges. Police deploy 60,000 security personnel for Anambra election. CBN to raise 650 billion naira in first November Treasury bill auction. DSS dismisses 115 personnel. And we can see here walking, swimming, cycling, best exercises to ease knee arthritis pain, according to scientists. Okay. Trump's threat, China, EU, ECOWAS back Nigeria. We will emerge stronger, federal government says. Tinubu declares state of emergency on security institutions. We oppose using religion as excuse to interfere in other countries' internal affairs, China says. Nigeria's violence driven by multiple factors, according to the European Union. No religious genocide in West Africa, says ECOWAS. Support Nigeria's fight against insurgency, Abdul Salami tells US. Reps in rowdy session over Lagos trade fair probe. And these are the stories. Let's start with the People's Democratic Party. And I'll start with you, Mr. Ekujime. Your thoughts about the PDP, starting from what happened with Wadata Plaza, where they said the pro-Wike supporters hijacked the Wadata Plaza a few days ago, and now they are displaced, counting down to the convention on the 15th and 16th.
Yes, the news that came out yesterday that a court of coordinate jurisdiction, like the court that stopped the convention, has now ordered the convention to hold. It's one that will cause a lot of discontent or cause people going forward, because you expect that it should be a court of superior jurisdiction that should do that, and not of equal or coordinate jurisdiction. So we wait to see how it pans out. But I know for free that the NDC might have to wade into what is happening, because this conflicting court judgment is capable of, undermining our democracy, and is not good for us. So I wait to see what happens in the days ahead.
All right, let's also get your reaction to that as well.
Yeah, sincerely speaking, a lot of us have said that judiciary needs to be up and doing if we must actually make progress in this. So like Nelson said, if court of the same level is actually giving a conflicting decision or conflicting judgment, go ahead. So which side are we? So we need a superior person to say, okay, this is the part. So if the convention holds 15-16 as said, definitely the other party who are discontented will definitely go to the superior court. So you can imagine if after the election has been held, the superior court now nullifies it. So what becomes of you? So I feel that the NGC needs to actually look for a way in which they will manage some of these judges in such a way that court of equal, wherever, you should not be having rivalry. This is where an average citizen will come up to say the judges have been compromised. Some will come out and say it's about the technicality or whatever that is before the judge that is using. So the same judge on the same level with you have said that with the fact before me, why can't you go back to the same person if indeed you know that you have that fact that can nullify the initial judgment that was pronounced by the same person, but you are going to it. That's why you see most of the time you hear a judge declaring something possibly in Lagos. Another person will go to the east, take another injunction to counter it of the same equal level. Judiciary must, and that's why we feel that the NJC need to be up and doing in making sure that our judges do what is right. This I'm seeing as an impending problem for PDP. It's not something to celebrate, because as it is, if they go ahead with the convention and you have of the same, it's just like equal people giving decision. That means the next set of people is, okay, you've done the convention, we'll go to superior court, and if they are able to nullify that thing, that means nothing has actually happened. So what is there to celebrate? So it's not time for us to say we are celebrating this, because it is not court of a higher jurisdiction that has declared what has actually happened.
Just to to double check, I believe that it's the Federal High Court in Abuja that gave the initial one, presided by Justice James Omotosho, that said that initially gave the issue halting the convention on the ground that the party had not complied with its own constitution and of course the Electoral Act and INEC guidelines. But this one is by an Oyo State High Court, under Justice Akintola, that granted this ex parte order directing the PDP and various other parties, including INEC, to go ahead with the election.
So both are high courts.
So the question is, the Abuja court is a federal high court.
No, they are both. You see, what the petitioners who have gone to the court in Ibadan have done now is what is called in judicial terminology, window shopping. If that judge that gave that judgment, I'm sure the judge was not aware that a court of equal jurisdiction has given the judgment.
So I don't know that.
If they were really sincere about trashing out this matter, it is for them to go to the court of appeal or go back to the same court asking for a stay of execution. But for them to go to another court where they can, shop for judgment, I don't think that is a step in the right direction.
Yesterday we had Dr. Adetokunbo Pierce join us to talk about this. And in this case, I don't even know if the Oyo State High Court's judgment can override what was given by Federal High Court. Because in terms of seniority, I want to believe that the Federal High Court that gave the ban by Justice James Omotosho is even superior.
No, it's not, whether at the state level or at the federal level.
Okay.
A high court is a high court.
So now the question is, there were certain terms and conditions that were listed for what PDP should have done to meet. One, they talked about the 21 days. There wasn't a sufficient 21-day notice that was given. There were several other things that were listed. What the PDP is holding on to is an earlier Supreme Court decision that says that the court cannot intermeddle in party activities. And I asked him yesterday, I said, even if the PDP is displeased by the judgments given by the Federal High Court in Abuja, was there a stay on execution before you're going to appeal? Because you're saying that you've gone to appeal. But was there a stay of execution in this process, which they did not confirm that they had done?
So you see, when the Supreme Court gave that judgment, the Supreme Court didn't say you can run your party like a banana republic. Even in the conduct of your affairs, the court has the responsibility to look into disputes if you are contravening your own laws. So the PDP as a party is registered under the Constitution of Nigeria, and it must conduct its affairs in line with even its own rules. So if it violates its rules, a member of that party can go to court and say my party is not obeying its own rules. And if the court finds grounds for nullifying whatever decision the party has done, the Supreme Court did not say courts should not look into it. What the Supreme Court is saying that courts should not determine how parties conduct their affairs. But in conducting their affairs, parties must recognize that they are guided by law.
Okay, let's take a call. Peter is calling in from Abuja. Good morning, Peter. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead.
The election judgment has given room for this kind of issue to always fail. So I think the NJC are complicit in this whole thing. If the NJC cannot come out to these judges that give us this kind of nonsense ruling to order, it will definitely continue. It will definitely continue. So I blame the NJC that could not put its house in order for all these judges. Whoever that default in it should be penalized or sanctioned. More of this kind of conflicting judgment will come up. Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. So basically, he's aligning himself with what you said about.
But we must let him know that the NJC is not people by angels who will know what will happen tomorrow.
And that's why I want to.
The judiciary is made up of people, and as we have the good eggs, it is not unlikely that we'll have the bad eggs. But the NJC at every point in time has always wielded the big stick. So you can be rest assured that this matter will definitely go before the NJC in form of a petition, and they will look at it, and the appropriate sanction will be meted out to the judge who gave this judgment, because that judgment is an abuse of court processes. Because in law, any matter that has been decided by a court of equal jurisdiction you must not allow that matter to be brought before you. And if it is brought before you, you tell them that, look, this matter has been decided by a sister court. What you are doing here is an abuse of judicial process. And you throw it back at them. You throw it out. So the NJC is not at fault. The NJC is a body in charge of discipline, promotion, and what have you for judicial officers. So it is when judicial officers have committed wrong that the NJC will move in. But if they are doing their job according to rules and regulations of their oath, the NJC is home and dry with it.
No, just in furtherance to what Nelson has said, I think NJC should go further. We said something that if the judgment by the Federal Court, Abuja, was made known to the judge in Ibadan, possibly would have thrown back. Do we have a common ground where some of these judgments, the judges can have access, maybe a central way of collecting some of this thing? And that's where technology comes in place when you are doing some of those things. Judgment, not the one you hear in the dailies. There should be a central place where you can collect data of judgment, so that even when those people are coming before you, you don't need them, because somebody wants to act smart will not tell you that we're taking this court. They'll just keep quiet about it.
It's because they're both in different jurisdictions.
Yeah, they'll just capitalize it. Do we have a central base where judges can have, access to judgment, which they must do, and it's only via technology. That's, I know that the lawyers, they read a lot. So you can definitely bring that. So when you have such, and a judge to go, I have to do this kind of a thing, you can penalize by not doing, due diligence before you carry out. Because they don't need to come and tell you.
This is what some would refer to as judicial rascality. But we've seen it happen, more than once.
Because they will still come and tell you there is no central base. I have no idea of what has actually happened.
No, sometimes they actually have an idea. And it's sometimes intentional to just cause some sort of...
No, if you have an idea, so long as what you have done is in violation of the law, so you pay for it.
So let's hold on. We have Uche calling from Abia. Good morning, Uche. Thanks for calling. Please go ahead.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I'm getting confused here. From what your guest is saying, does it mean that our judges are not listening to news? Neither are they not, reading newspapers. Hello?
Hi. We can hear you.
Because they are behaving as if judges don't even listen to news. If the court of High Court in, Abuja, does it mean that they did not hear it? They don't turn their television. They don't listen. Like the former president, we are being told, he listens every day. But at the end of the day, he told us that he didn't know that the Inspector General of Police didn't go to Benue, where he said to Benue. I'm confused here. Our judges, they listen to newspaper. They read newspaper, they listen to news. Which means the court or the judge in Ibadan have heard that the court in APC have given a judgment. So these policies, they are playing politics with us. Otherwise, let them sanction any judge that, that is my own opinion here.
All right. Thank you very much.
I think we need to, the last caller, we need to educate him that judicial activities or processes is not about what you read in the newspaper.
The court is not a Father Christmas. It is what you bring to the court.
Before the judge.
I completely agree.
So whether you are writing, if the judge wants to decide on a case, even if it is in all the newspaper, if the judge does not have the CTC of the previous judgment, he will not attend to it. So it is not about newspaper. Judges read newspapers.
Just to mention that this is not the first time that we've seen this. We saw with the Emir of Kano case where there were two courts that gave contradictory judgments about the same matter. So it's something that we need to look into, and I'm sure that I know that this is something that the NBA has even spoken about sometimes, because it impacts the ability of the judiciary to effectively dispense justice. We're going to go on a very quick break. We'll come back and then we'll take more stories and explore more papers. Stay with us. To Breakfast Central. We're still reviewing the papers. We still have with us Nelson Ekudjumi and Olusegun Okwade with us here in the studio. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Let's quickly touch on Mr. Okwade, the PDP. We've talked about the legal standpoint, and Mr. Ekudjumi has expanded further on the fact, and even you as well, as the fact that courts of coordinate jurisdiction have given different positions, and from his perspective, the NJC should step in. Our audience has shared that thought as well. Let's talk about the political implication of where PDP is at. Do you consider them at this point a formidable opposition? Yesterday, we had the PDP chieftain, Adetokunbo PS, join us, and he believes that the PDP is still in a good place. In fact, majority of the PDP officials who join us on the show say that it's the media that is spreading misinformation about the PDP and trying to share a narrative about crisis in the PDP, but that they do not have crisis and that their house is in order. So what do you think about the PDP's position?
I will continue to say this, that the way and manner politicians handle things, most of the time, people outside will say they are saying white thing and they are calling it black. So if people are coming to say the media are projecting PDP in the bad books, that they don't have crisis within themselves. The question I ask myself is the information that we had this morning, this issue of legal tussle between, is it something that somebody just sat down somewhere, wrote the story, and just feel that we should discuss, or something that is substantive? Because this would have not, we would not have this discussion if the initial judgment is still holding, which says that you should not have the election. But as we speak, we are now having something countering that particular position to say the convention we hold on the 15th and 16th. So it's nothing to do with the issue of the media projecting PDP. And I've said it times with that number that, as far as I'm concerned, they are not a formidable opposition, if you ask me. Because the house that is divided against itself, you will only be fighting yourself and not looking at other people. How many criticisms? In fact, I would say that ADC has come out most of the time to give government, certain criticism of some of their policies and ideas. How much have we heard of PDP? Who is speaking on behalf of PDP? Who is there to talk? Majority of their governors have suddenly asked that they are sinking ship. How many people have you come out to say no? What that person is saying, we are negating it with this position. Okay. As far as I'm concerned, I have not considered them as a formidable opposition as we speak, because there is that objective criticism to put the ruling party in order is actually not there. It's more of crisis in and out on daily basis on part of the party, even though they claim that is the media that is projecting it. But we want a position where we will see them having this. When they have the convention, 15-16, we will still come back on this table, because we all believe that is actually being projected is not going to hold water. Okay,
I want us to move away from PDP's politics and look at Trump, still on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Trump's threat, China, EU, ECOWAS back Nigeria. Let's get your thoughts. We all know the details. No need to read the riders. I read them earlier. I'll start with Mr. Akujumi.
Well, the fact is that Mr. Donald Trump has goofed once again. The basis for which he made that declaration and that threat of military action, are not in sync with the reality of our situation in Nigeria. And just yesterday, I watched the U.S. envoy to Nigeria speak, dispassionately and objectively about our security challenge. So what the EU, ECOWAS, and China or any right-thinking person will definitely know that what we have on our hands as security challenges that we need all the help, the support, encouragement, collaboration to overcome. If Mr. Trump is really sincere about the security challenge in Nigeria, I think the best thing for him to do is to interface with the Nigerian government and see how he can be of assistance rather than issuing threats, because as we sit, I'm not aware that Nigeria is a conquered territory under the United States of America. So Mr. Trump, once again, just like he did with the South African issue of the whites being killed, has also made that same error. I wonder the basis of his conclusions. I wonder the type of information Mr. Trump is availed. Maybe he's the type of leader that jettisons facts and runs with his emotions. That's what this latest declaration of his portrays.
Okay, we have a call. We'll continue to pick up from where you left off. We have Gracie calling from Igondo. Good morning. Thank you for joining. Please go ahead with your comment.
Good morning, my sister. How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you for asking. Hope you're well too. Please go ahead.
Yes. Sorry, I want to intervene about this PDP issue.
Okay.
I'm sorry. There is a way I listen to the analysts at times when they are discussing about this issue. This PDP issue, we all know what the problem is. That the problem is from the people who are trying to destroy PDP, people like Wiki, people like Ayoshi, when they are trying to destroy PDP. This problem is not from PDP. It's from all those agents of APC. They are trying to destroy the party. We in Nigeria, we know the truth. But at times when I watch analysts, the way they talk, the way God behave, we know the reality. But we refuse to take the reality in this country. And this country cannot move forward the way it is now. I don't know why human beings cannot be sincere in this country. We know the people, we know their mission to destroy the party so that there will not be opposition 2027 election. That is just the truth of the matter. I don't know, we know the truth, we cover it down in Nigeria. We are too tribalistic, we are too biased, we are not sincere with what are there in this country. I must be sincere with you, my sister. That is the reality. And Mr. Benson Ejagbo, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Benson, for that. So he believes that our analysts are not being very honest with analysis because he believes that the APC is behind this.
That's his own view. But when our discussion here has not been about the problem of PDP. It has been about the issue of court judgments regarding conversion. We are not looking at what, so we have not discussed.
So I think that's in response to Mr. Sheson.
No, maybe he was not watching it.
Angle, but do you agree with what he's saying?
No, I don't, because if the PDP is saying their house is in order, and today some people from PDP go to court and court says don't hold convention. Tomorrow, another set of people go to court and another court say hold convention. Is it the APC that is going to court? Well, or is it the media that is making up this story about persons in court?
Before they got there, some of the major issues we started to see was the jumping ship from PDP to APC. And they've accused the APC of luring their members to manipulate them to join the APC so that Nigeria can swing into a There was also the issue of the closure of Wadata Plaza in Abuja. And Nyesom Wike has been also accused of working for the APC while claiming to be
the
part
crisis
of
PDP that we are battling with today did not start in 2023. It started in 2015 with former President Goodluck Jonathan when he reneged on his agreement to do a tap. That was where PDP... You remember that in 2015, 5 PDP governors worked with the APC that produced President Muhammadu Buhari. So the problem of PDP did not start in 2023. President Goodluck Jonathan was the genesis. He reneged on an agreement and everybody said, no, this is what we agreed in the party. And they all said they worked against him. And the crisis became worsened with the PDP wanting to producing a northerner to succeed another northerner who had ruled for 8 years under the APC. So when people say is Wike, was Wike the one who started the crisis in 2015? So when parties make rules and they cannot keep to it, and they start having problems, they start looking for scapegoats, looking for directions to point accusing fingers.
Okay.
That is exactly what is happening.
Let's take this call from Abuja. Achike Chude is calling from Abuja. Good morning. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead.
Good morning, ma.
Good morning, sir.
Yes. I'm just following up.
Good morning. Thank you for calling. Please turn down the volume of your TV set so we can have a conversation. Your TV is interfering. Thank you.
Okay. My name is Guber Isaac.
Just turn down the volume of the TV set. All right. Okay, Chukwu, you might have to call us back. The volume from your TV is interfering. And to subsequent callers, please always turn down the volume of the device you're watching with because that would interfere with the call. But yes, you were talking about not agreeing with what
because the reason why we are here is not what he has said.
And also, from just to add to what he has said, if indeed they know that Fayose and Wike are the problem of, are there no disciplinary action that you can use and pull out somebody that is not in sync with your vision? So internal problems are not things that we should meddle into. If somebody is out there, you say they are working for, when you do this anti-party...
have been passed by the Supreme Court that the certificates are available, yes, judges. Like, let me mention one, Omotosho is reviewing, so is bringing back such a case again when Supreme Court has said such a person does not have any case to answer.
All right.
Keep that aside. And finally.
All right. Thank you, Michael, for calling. Michael says he's tired and that the judges really need to do better and he's not pointing particularly.
The judges are members of the society, like we said. They are good judges the same way they are bad judges. They are bad pastors the same way they are good pastors. So every institution, people by human beings, have their good and bad eggs.
Right, okay.
So the judiciary or the bar cannot be an exception.
All right. Let's quickly, because we're almost out of time. Mr. Okwade, the U.S. threat to Nigeria, how do you take the threat and how do you take the government's response? Okay,
well, I've said the threat issued by President Donald Trump, to me, seems to be one-sided. It's not coming, objectively, if indeed. I've said it that the killing that we have in the country is not peculiar to Christianity. Economically, we are having a lot of death happening. There is no day we come here or you listen to this program that you don't talk about killings here and there. I think part of the thing they need to do is to look for a way to have an engagement with the federal government. If you feel that you have the understanding or better way of addressing those issues, that's why we refer to you as one of the superior country in the world. You can have an engagement with them and see the best way to approach it. On the part of our government, there are things these are things that you see when your people in-house tell you of certain things and we tend to politicize most of the issue. It's not specifically alone to this administration, but to what? How did this issue of banditry, kidnapping start? It started, on a small boat where people just feel that it doesn't matter. Now it has galvanized to a situation where it has become a monster that is becoming unmanageable by the security architecture. Do we want to talk about the number of military men that are being killed? And part of the things I have said is that government on their part, this is always my personal view and I stick by it, we cannot continue to be granting amnesty to those that are killing us politically, economically, and in every area and feel like the best way to go. Can we adopt a different mode? If people are killed by the sword and it's confirmed, they are submitting their ammunition, let's reduce their numbers by making sure that they go. And aside that, look for way of decentralizing this security architecture. We have said it. State policing, local policing is the way to go. You can, if you have been doing top to bottom, can we adopt bottom to top, where you can take charge of the security from the community to the CDC, to the CDA, to the local government, where a local government is responsible. If you fail in securing your places, then it becomes a problem where you will not have good economic activity and you will not be, what is the traditional rulers doing? Let's adopt a different style. We've had it from top to bottom and it's not working. Can we have it from bottom to top, where you empower the local government, you empower the local vigilantes? Because most of the time, this issue of killing do not happen. My sister, you have to go to Borno. At the center of Maiduguri, you see business transaction going on. Go to Kaduna, where you hear about the killing. The center is always at peace. But when you go to the suburb, where there are lack of governance, people having this thing, that's where you have most of the killing. And that's why we must take it to the local government, to the CDAs, where we can have people guiding and making that report and swift response to
it. It's actually helping that we have both of you on a day when the papers are buzzing, because some days the papers are dry. Today the papers are buzzing with so many stories, but unfortunately we don't have enough time. But I want to have the both of you again as a pair, please, on the show. Thank you so much for obliging us and for answering when we invite you. And thank you to our guests for joining us virtually, physically, as well as our virtual audience on YouTube. Thank you to those who are streaming live. News Central's Breakfast Central will be back again same time tomorrow. For now, we'll be heading out of the studio as Jasiri comes up next. Have a wonderful rest of the day.